Hello everybody and welcome. This is Not a Pro Gardener here. And today we're going to be talking about harvesting. We got a surprise of this crop that we didn't think was going to push through. We had this really hot start on the weather here about 3 weeks ago. It would just jumped from 70 to 90, which in cold season crop terms that means it's probably going to bolt. But they pushed through. Really surprising that it hasn't gone south on me yet. But this green magic broccoli has pulled through for me. So today we have a harvesting video for you. We're going to talk a little bit about what we did for this broccoli. Like, for instance, we put that fertilizer in the furrow at planting. So that helped it get started. I believe it was Nature Safe 855. Pretty sure that's what it was. And just about every 2 to 3 weeks it would rain. So I couldn't inject as much fertilizer as I wanted to, because with that organic fertilizer you got to get it in there early because it takes a while for it to break down and be able to be used by that plant. So every chance I got, I injected some of that AgroThrive, which is like I'll have to put it up on the screen so you can see what kind of NP and K value that has. I do not recall it at the time, but I put down AgroThrive, MicroBoost, and some of the 777 from the Nature Safe lineup of a powder, flowable powder that is all organic. I grew this broccoli organically. It did very well. Surprisingly, I didn't think I would pull this off. Some of them are kind of close together. Some of them got stepped on. Some of them got eaten by, wildlife. But we made a pretty good crop here. And from our experience, about a 30-foot row of broccoli is enough for us for a year for our vegetable needs. So I usually grow about a 30-foot row of roughly every vegetable that we enjoy, so we can have that stock in the freezer, which is becoming more and more important by the day, So from transplanting, it should have been about 55 days for these broccoli to mature and be good head size for us to harvest. And we roughly planted them about 57 or so days ago, I think it was. And the reason why we have to harvest these today is mainly bolting issues, but they are mature enough that I'm happy with the size and I'm ready to cut them. So there's no harm done there, but just things you got to take into consideration, just about everything around you. Now we're going to take you back here and show you what they look like and talk a little bit about harvesting procedures and stuff, which are pretty widely known. I'm pretty sure Johnny's has this stuff on their website for you to kind of, if you don't know how to harvest things or what's the best practice, you can usually go on their website and type in whatever vegetable you're looking for and then go to growing information, and it'll tell you pretty much how to harvest it, store it, or preserve it. There's a lot of information on there about their vegetables, so go ahead and check it out. That's a wealth of information that is free. And usually if they send you a seed catalog, it has that information in it as well, which is invaluable and will become more valuable as time goes on now. So let's go ahead and take you back, show you the state of these broccoli heads now. It's kind of starting to get hot out here, so we're going to try to get this cut before they start wilting. So let's go check it out. Okay guys, here's one of my green magic broccoli plants, and as you can see today they've been heating up, so they start wilting. Don't panic. Usually they can handle it, but in some cases they can't and they start to bolt. That is one of the reasons why you can harvest them early. But if you want to squeeze out as much time as you possibly can on these broccoli heads, I'll give you a little information that is helpful. So you want to harvest these before these little bitty flower buds open. You want to cut this center head off. Get all this broccoli, this whole broccoli head off. You want to cut that center head off, and hydro cool or ice them as soon as possible. You want to keep these as fresh as possible. You leave them out in the sun, they're not going to do very good. And as you can see, this moth flying around, that's one of your enemies out here for any of your cold season crops. They lay them little, can't recall the name, but the worms on there. But as you can see, I already got some worm pressure on here from these little holes. So our plan is to cut these heads off so we can get a second harvest off the side shoots that usually come up as time goes on if they don't bolt already. But usually you can get a couple more harvests off of these little bitty side shoots that come out after you cut the center head. So we're going to try that this year and keep you updated on that to see if it works. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this head off, kind of show you what we do, and show you how we harvest this, and hopefully the side shoots will appear. Alright everybody, so this is my Green Magic broccoli. You want to have a sharp knife when you do this. So we're going to take this and cut him down probably about 4 inches lower or so than the crown, and just kind of cut this guy off so we can have this nice broccoli head looking beautiful. We're going to do this to the entire 30-foot row that we have, and we'll show you what these guys look like inside because the sun's just not good for them. So we're going to go ahead, do the rest of this row, and like I said, they'll have little side shoot productions coming out, which will supply you with a couple more meals if you just cut this center head off and leave the stalks in. So we're going to try that and see how it does. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this row cut, and then I'll show you what the rest of the harvest looks like on the dinner table. So stick with me. So we got all these broccoli heads cut off, hopefully to encourage that side shoot production. I'm going to leave the stalks in the ground, and now our second round of broccoli isn't doing too bad since we side dressed it. As you can see, the heads are up and coming. This variety, the Eastern Magic broccoli, is a more heat tolerant variety. They don't seem to be as stressed as these Green Magic broccoli plants do. So I'm hoping that they'll still make it. And we got these small cauliflower plants that got mixed in with everything in here. They got a head on them as well. I can feel that solid head down in there. And what you want is see how these leaves are wrapping them up nice and tight? That's exactly what you want. You want them heads to be tight and wrapped so it blocks that sun out of there. I got one there and one hidden right there that got mixed in with the bunch, which is not a big deal to me, but hopefully we can get lots of food off this whole tightly pushed, shoved together plot here. I'm looking for production. That's why I named this the production plot, and that's hence why I've grown most of these broccoli plants, remind you, are a foot apart, which is very tight together. Some of them didn't make it, so some of them are 2 foot apart, but most of them did make it. Look, you can see some side shoot production right there already coming up from this broccoli plant. If you can see that, they do put out, and if this whole 30-foot row puts out some more production, there'll be a good meal, a good couple meals, or at least one meal off of something that I was just going to throw away. So I think it's pretty good. Check out these rutabagas. Yeah, the weed pressure is intense, and I wasn't really planning on getting underneath there and weeding all them, and they're kind of shading out most of it, but I think they'll be just fine. I mean, they're not as big as they are at the grocery store because I haven't really grown them before, or I haven't really tried to push them because the weed pressure doesn't help at all, but I'm doing it's kind of a trial run for me. I've never grown rutabagas before, but they're not a disappointment. I'm pretty proud of everything I got going on out here. Cauliflower, 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 3 different kinds. And then I got this whole row of Brussels sprouts. And look at the leaves and foliage that these Brussels sprout plants have put on. I got a lot of trimming to do this whole row. Crop the leaves off and drop them suckers so we can get some better head production on them Brussels sprout heads. But this is exactly what the weed pressure looks like in a brand new garden. Usually I would recommend do not grow a garden in a new spot, because this is the kind of weed pressure you see, which is why I preach the tarp and till method, but that's a story for another day. As you can see, not everything's sunshine and rainbows around here, but the onions are still growing just fine. They're just about to start bulbing here soon. I need to side dress them one more time or inject some more fertilizer. It's been raining for what seems like forever. It's been about a week, so I haven't had a chance to get out here and weed too much. As you can see, these Warrior Bunching onions are the best looking onions I have out here. They really like the heat, evidently. They look amazing, and as you can see, we've already eaten about a 4-foot section here. So, and the spinach has bolted. As you can see, this is what happens whenever it gets too hot. All these little flowers and what's going to be seed heads. Hopefully I can get to it and take these guys out here soon. Probably going to have to do this evening or tomorrow. Rip up the drip tape. And from what I've found in new gardening, the weeds are just there's so much weed pressure that when you do take care of these weeds, cut them off, however you do it, weed eat them, and then wheel hoe them out, you need to rake them out. If you don't, like over here, I did an experiment. I chopped them all off, and I could have raked all this debris out of here, and all they do is they start growing right back up. Not surprising, but just something for new gardeners to know. If you have a new garden like me, which is a high weed seed bank, you need to rake out your weeds when you take care of them. Don't just leave them laying in there, because as you can see in between all them onions, they just come back. Now, my Tom multiplying onions. This is what made it. This is what made it out of the whole bunch that I had. And they're doing pretty good. I just hand weeded all this a couple days ago, and they are doing very well. Although it's about half of what got sent to me in the mail made it, I'm still pretty happy with it. They'll be seed stock for next year. Now my peas, these Oregon Sugar Pod peas, I believe is what they are. They are doing amazing, and I'd say in about a week or so, they're going to be ready to be harvested and froze, which I'm going to try to do that. Now the celery I put in between here intentionally, because as you can see, they're reaching for the sky. They are reaching for the sky because they are trying to get that sunlight, and that was my kind of way of trying to make bigger stalks on this celery without having to mess with it too much. And all this I was hoping would shade out any weeds in between, which it looks like they've got most of them shaded out. But as you can see, the celery stalks here are reaching for the sky to get more light. So that's the way I kind of trying to make them get bigger, was to kind of stress them out a little bit. But they're doing perfectly fine, growing huge. I'd say they're about 2 foot tall or so, some of them. So hopefully we can keep them going for too long. They're going to need picked. Now, this is not a pro gardener here, and today we're going to be talking about this raised bed. It looks kind of funny, but this is a necessary thing that I had to do to my raised bed. I've always had huge insect pressure for my cold season crops, lettuce and stuff like that, kale and cabbage. So what I did was, this is just a shade cloth on top to keep my production going through the heat. But see that insect netting on there? that's my way of an organic pest control right there. It's kind of hard to see, but they're all looking beautiful. There are some weeds in there because I do not open this very often, only when I need to harvest something. The lettuce, it isn't looking the best. They're supposed to wrap tightly wrapped heads, which makes me think they're starting to bolt. So I'm probably going to start eating more of that here soon. Usually they're supposed to wrap tighter heads, and some of them look like they are achieving that, but the shade cloth must not be just doing enough for them. As you can see, my kale here, they're looking really well. There is a little bit of insect pressure inside there, so I'm going to have to go get some organic spray like Azera, which is what I have for this exact problem, and spray all this. Whenever I open it to harvest it one more time, I'll spray it all real good and then put this insect netting back on, and it has helped a lot. I gotta say, I'm impressed with it. This is a 14-foot bed by 4 foot with drip tape down in there, and this shade cloth is working. I'm very happy with it. So this is just a little trick that I've got going on to keep me from having to spend so much time and money on this just for it to bolt, which is okay. I don't mind it. So everybody, that's the plot, the production plot. It looks like a mess, but I got them squeezed as tightly as together as I can make them to produce as much food as I can for the family. That's a huge win for me. So let's go in and check out the broccoli harvest and see what that turned out to be, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about them when we get in there. So let's talk a little bit more when we get in there. So let's go ahead and check them out. Okay, everybody, kind of got them spread out on the table, but I would say this is probably about the same. I mean, most of my broccoli heads last year were all about this size, which wasn't too bad. But I'm very happy with what I have, considering all the rain we've got. It's really helped these guys to fill out. Pretty heavy feeders, and I'd say this is a huge success. These broccoli heads are amazing. Like, my hand in comparison to this guy, that's perfect size broccoli. Yeah, they could probably be bigger, but I'm happy with what I have. So now, storing these guys, they definitely need to go in the fridge. So I'm gonna get some bags out and bag these guys up. So what we're going to do is blanch and freeze them. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll turn this broccoli upside down like this, and then cut them off where we want each individual stalk to be, and you can blanch them, and then you put them in an ice water bath, try to cool them down. You do not want to overcook them. You only have to blanch them for a couple minutes. And then you want to blanch them. After you blanch them, you want to put them in an ice bath to cool them off. And what we do is we load up enough to fit in a quart bag, which is like one meal for us. A quart bag, not full, but you know, moderately full, which is usually about one head of broccoli. You know what I'm saying? So then you have your broccoli pre-packaged. All you gotta do is pull it out of the freezer and it's ready to go. Now, to blanch it is to kill any bacteria or anything on it, to get the, if you spray pesticides on them, which I did not. I actually didn't have to spray these at all this time, which was awesome. But as you can see, the broccoli heads are all over the table. Pretty good size, really. I am very, very happy with these guys. So the harvest was a success. Now, there are many ways you can cook these guys, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. this was just a harvest video to kind of talk to you about it. After you cut them, you definitely want to store them at like around 32 degrees or 0 degrees Celsius. You know, and in a perfect world, from what the book says, you need 95-98% humidity with good air circulation. But since I am processing these tomorrow, I'm going to bag them up, stuff them in the freezer, and then tomorrow all I got to do is get a knife out, a little paring knife, and trim them up, blanch them, put them in an ice water bath, and then put them in the seal meal bags, and then you've already put away around 20-something meals, roughly, which is awesome. Now, you can keep these stems as well, these stems that are part of the broccoli florets, and you can eat those as well. So, this is Not a Pro Gardener here. We've had really good fun harvesting our broccoli. Hopefully we got lots more videos to kind of show you some little tips and tricks like we do. And we'll see you next time out there in the garden. Thanks for watching.